wanted to make this particular video based on conversations that I've been having with a couple of my friends. Everyone in life, in some way, is chasing the idea of happiness. Some people who come across like they are incredibly happy inside really aren't, and the opposite is true as well. Some people who seem like they're having a really tough time or seem like they're really stressed or in a really stressed environment may actually be really happy. Obviously this video is incredibly subjective. It's coming from my point of view based on my experiences of people who I've spoken to and the advice that I try to give at times. So I'm not saying in this video that if you do these 5 things you'll be happy for the rest of your life, or if you don't do these things you will never be happy again. It's more like 5 things to consider, or that can help in terms of achieving some sense of happiness. I don't know, it's just some ideas. Step 1. It's one of the things that I've talked about with friends a lot, is the idea of what happiness actually is. I think a lot of people have a mismatch between what sort of they perceive as happiness and then what they are looking or searching for in their lives. What they believe happiness is actually more sort of joy, and then what they're looking for is actually happiness. Joy is an experience. It's something that you experience in a moment and it's linked to that moment. If your team wins a football match, or you see a really cute dog and get to fluff it, or you meet one of your idols, or you get to go to a really awesome event. And all of these things are experiences. They're temporary, they happen, you get to that point, and that point is filled with joy. And then that point ends and you carry on with your life. That's what joy is. And happiness is a completely different thing. Rather than being an experience, happiness is a state of being. Happiness is much closer to things like contentness and comfort. It's the being, happy with what's going on and what your life is, or who your friends are, and things like that, and long-term things. And yes, while being very happy with those things, you can also experience sadness in the same way as joy is. You can have sad experiences, you can go through some really difficult days, or you can just, even just down to things like someone having an argument with you, or someone cutting you off on the street when you're driving, or whatever it happens to be. There can be really frustrating or sad moments, but they exist as moments in the same way as joy does, whereas happiness is a state of being. It's how you perceive the world around you. That difference is important to remember. Step 2. Next is the identification and elimination of things that stress you. So I know this isn't always the easiest thing, and I know that it can be very complicated, and it can be very stressful in itself. In a cruel twist of irony, but it's very important to look at your life if you're not happy, and quite brutally just identify what is affecting you. And it can be very difficult sometimes to identify what is actually happening. You can experience times of difficulty and not really know what's causing it, and that's fine too. Those times happen. When you do identify things that stress you, you then have to look at whether you can do anything about those. It can be quite difficult, but eliminating those stresses and those things that are affecting you is incredibly important. And while it can sometimes seem like a really difficult thing to do and a really big deal, and like you can't imagine what it's going to be like, and it just builds up inside you anyway. Once it's done, the relief is incredible. And removing those things in the long term can do so much good for you and your well-being. there may be times where you think something is really terrible, and so you remove that person or you remove whatever, and then it turns out not to be the case. Mistakes do happen, and that's fine. It's pretty hard not to spill any up on my bed. Step 3. Now obviously there are going to be things in your life that are stressing you or bringing you down and affecting your well-being that you can't necessarily change. You're not always going to be able to move house, you're not always going to be able to move jobs or whatever like that. Or at least if you are, it may be a much more long-term thing. You can't just turn around one day and be like, I'm going to move house next week. You know, life doesn't always work like that, unfortunately. Things get in the way, shit happens, and there's some things in life that will bring you down or will cause issues, and you just can't do anything about it. You know, if there's an issue currently going on that you don't know how to change or you can't change, and you're worried because it's going to be there for the rest of your life and it's going to cause difficulties for the rest of your life, that feels like it's going to be choking and it's going to always be there and it's just going to be grinding you down and causing those problems. And with those kinds of issues, not being able to do anything can make you feel incredibly powerless, and that can really affect how happy you are, because, you know, as much as the issue itself is a really big issue, the powerlessness and the inability to do anything can sometimes be just as bad, if not worse, and it can make you feel so helpless and hopeless. With those kinds of issues, it's all about perception. It's all about how you think about those things and how you deal with them. I know it sounds incredibly pretentious and cliche and all the rest of it, but it's all about having peace with the facts that whether you dwell on it, let it bring you down, feel shit about it, or whether you're able to spin it into a positive, use it to your benefit, it doesn't give a shit. It's still going to be there. It doesn't care what you think. So the choice is yours as to how you perceive it. Whether you perceive it as this thing that's going to bring you down, it's going to keep coming back, or whether you look at it as something that you can learn from, or something that you can use to your benefit. Now, people tend to think about the whole learning thing with bad experiences particularly, because it's the positive spin, it's the way of making yourself feel better, and in this case obviously it is. You can also learn from good experiences. You know, there's no reason not to. But with bad experiences, that's sort of the main positive. It's the kind of, okay, well, this thing's happening, I don't really want it to happen, but what can I learn from this? Is there a way to avoid this in the future, or to handle it well? If I handle this well, that thing in the future that's going to come up, that doesn't seem so bad because I've managed with this. That sort of acceptance of things that in life are going to happen. You're going to have to deal with things. You know, it's life. It's not perfect. Those challenges and those things that happen allow you to grow and to develop as a person. And yes, I'm not saying that those things aren't going to feel shit and there's going to be shit experiences and you're going to have to deal with them, but you can do it. I believe in you, subscribers. I believe in you. And if you don't subscribe to me, then subscribe now and I'll start believing you. Hello, I am back. It was Buster. Buster was protecting me from some leaflets that are posted through the door. Good boy. Step 4. Friends are always the important, and it's really great to have friends, and you can spend time with them and have lots of joy, but also know that, you know, that's something that you can have in the future, and that can sort of feed into happiness. But it works in relation to a support network as well. If you've got friends and they're really your friends, they should be looking out for you. And it's very easy obviously to hide the fact that you're not feeling great, but they should be looking out for you and you should be able to go to them as a support network. That doesn't mean that all of your friends, you know, have to know exactly how everything is going, have to know the intricate details of how shit you feel on a particular day. That's not how it works. Don't do that. If you're good friends with someone, if you're genuinely quite close to someone, you should be able to go to them. And you shouldn't be scared to go to them. They may not be able to help, they may not know your experiences, they may not know how to advise you. They should at least listen to you as you're trying to explain how you feel. Let you know that they are there for you and that you can come to them if you need to. And the same should work the other way around. Be there for your friends. But you can't let friendships just become a support network. If you do, if the only time that you speak to X, Y or Z is needing to vent about how you feel or how shit things are, they're going to associate you with talking about how shit things are. And that will weigh on them. And that's not saying that you're a burden. Obviously, not saying don't talk to people about your feelings. Talk to people about your feelings. But don't just use people as an emotional sort of dump. You have to try and have the good chats, fun, the how are you today, just the normal sort of stuff as well. You can't just have people as emotional punching bags to take out your stress and your anger on. That's not good friendship, and that's not being good people. You've got to find the right balance. Step 5. It's very important to remember the bigger picture, and as my sister told me a couple of months ago as I sat on the floor of her living room talking to her and her boyfriend about the fact that I maybe want to drop out of uni, there's no schedule on life. That was one of those kind of eureka moments for me, and that's why I pointed it out particularly. I was talking about the fact that I wanted to drop out of uni, and I didn't really want to go back straight in this September because I would have rushed it again, but then by next September I'll already be 20 going into uni when people my age are nearly finishing uni. And that was, it just didn't feel right in my head. And to be fair, I may go back to uni next September, I may not go back for 5-10 years, I may never go back, I don't know. I'm very open about it now. But at the time I was very sort of, you're either a student at 18, 19 when you take the gap year, or you start in like your mid to late 20s to 30s onwards as a mature student. That was the two sort of brackets for me. And that was so wrong. And it just took that moment of, well, why am I trying to bracket my life off? Well, yes, you do have certain brackets when you're younger, as like primary school, secondary school, 18 because you're an adult. Once you reach a sense of adulthood, why am I trying to schedule it off? Why am I trying to say that I need to achieve this thing by 21 when realistically I can do it at any time for the next however long I live? And so it is important to remember the bigger picture in terms of life is so diverse, there's so much opportunity, there's so much freedom, and there's so much you can do, there's so much time, issues that are affecting you aren't necessarily going to last forever, and if they do last a long time, in that time you'll grow to deal with it and you'll learn coping mechanisms and you will get through it. But also don't take the bigger picture to be too much more than it is. You know, it's a reminder. You know, you don't have to dwell on it too much. Try and live in the moment as much as you can. Obviously plan for the future, obviously reflect on the past. Those two things are very important. But try and live in the moment as much as you can, because what I found is living in the moment means less stress and less worry and less, oh, but what if that? One of the things that I try and keep in mind when I am stressed or I'm struggling with something or there is something in my life that is difficult. I went to see one of the Avengers films. Good night, people.